Welcome to episode 2 of flipping a K-swapped Honda Civic. I paid $5,000 for this car that you see behind me, and I'm going to see if I can try to finish the build and sell it for profit. The previous owner started the K-swap, but did not finish it. He basically just got the engine in the engine bay on motor mounts and then sold it to me. In the last episode, we completed the drivetrain with some Crankshaft conversion hubs, some 0206 RSX Type S axles, and a 0206 RSX Type S half shaft. I also completed the exhaust system with a PLM RB V2 header and a Yonaka 2.5-inch catback exhaust, which I modified to work with the K-swap. Today, we're gonna complete all tasks necessary to get a first start from the JDM K24A engine that you see in the Honda Civic behind me. I've got a lot to do today, so I gotta get to work, and the first thing that I'm gonna start with is completing the cooling system plumbing. I decided to start with the upper and lower radiator hoses. I went with Hybrid Racing's upper and lower radiator hoses here. The upper hose is going on nice and smooth, but I did have to modify it a little bit. The lower hose, however, well, you'll see in a second. The upper hose fit great, but the lower hose, however, did not fit. It completely slipped my mind that I'm using a totally different radiator than what this coolant hose kit calls for. And so I had to do a little bit of research to find out which lower hose would work with this radiator setup. I contacted the previous owner and he told me that the radiator that's currently in this car is from a 2006 to 2011 Honda Civic SI, otherwise known as the 8th gen. The 8th gen happens to be my daily driver. So I just went out to my engine bay, took a look to see what the coolant hose routing looked like, and based on how it looked in the 8th gen and how it looked in this EK, I decided that I could just run an 8th gen lower radiator hose and it should work totally fine. So I got one on order and we're moving forward from there. The first thing we're gonna do while we wait for the hose to come in is work on the heater core lines. I do want this car to have heat, so I have to find a way to make the heater core valve function in a K-swap application.
All right.
Shorten this hose a little bit. This is gonna work though. We're gonna have heat in this baby, which is cool because I didn't think I was gonna be able to get heat going, not gonna lie. Oh yeah, baby. We got working heat in the K-swap. Let's go. That's a good heater hose mod right there. That's good. I like how this kink that I used constantly forces this away from the header. Obviously we have to do something about this harness, which should not be a problem at all, but I'm really happy with how this hose is routed. Now we have to just figure out this one. This is really no issue. The only issue is that this hose does not want to fit over this barb. We either gotta force it on there, which I would be totally okay with, or I gotta use a different hose. But I really would like this hose to work. It was pretty hard to get the heater core valve installed properly because on a B series or D series application, the heater core valve is designed to point towards the passenger side of the engine bay, which is exactly where you need those heater core lines to go. But on a K-swap application, the engine is flipped. So you have to get the valve to point towards the driver's side of the engine bay. That way you can run the hose to the water neck. Not to mention the valve spacing, like how far it is away from the firewall in line, matters a lot because if you don't have it just perfect, that little cable that pulls the valve won't function properly. don't know
know how this is possible, but I found a hose at the auto parts store that fit perfectly for this application. The one end of the hose that goes on the water neck side was actually larger diameter than the rest of the hose. And then the hose end that attaches to the heater core like inlets by the firewall was the same size as the rest of the hose. So it fit perfectly onto the firewall inlet and outlet, and then it fit perfectly onto the water neck above the trans. I don't know how this hose exists. I don't know what it's for. I don't know if I have the part number anymore, but if I do, I'll leave it in the description down below because it's gonna be a game changer for those of you guys that are trying to retain heat in your K-swap, EK, and probably EG applications. And that's not the only miracle part that I found during this process. I also went to Menards and I found a 3/8 NPT to 1/8 NPT adapter fitting that we're gonna use to install a B-series coolant temperature sensor into the RBC intake manifold. It's pretty freaking nifty. Check this out.
Yeah.
I know it's not as clean as like one of those custom anodized billet aluminum ones, but it was cheaper and I could get it immediately and it's going to work perfectly. So that's a huge win in my book. With that, the cooling system is entirely plumbed up aside from obviously the pesky lower radiator hose, which we'll deal with when it comes in. But in the meantime, we're gonna move on to something a little bit easier, which is the throttle position sensor. The engine will not start without a throttle position sensor. And that's because the ECU will have no idea how much fuel or timing to supply the engine without knowing where the throttle is located. It supplies an entirely different amount of fuel if the throttle is wide open than if it's totally closed. We have to get a TPS on it, so I went ahead and slapped one on. It won't work perfectly until I'm able to calibrate it. I'll be doing that off camera, but if you are interested in how to calibrate a TPS on your Honda, I'll leave a link in the description down below to a video that I made a year ago, and it's got over 100,000 views of people learning how to calibrate the TPS. It's only 4 minutes long, and it's explained as simply as possible. Feel free to check it out. In the meantime, let's move on to the next task. The next big problem is that the CRV throttle body that's on this intake manifold uses a throttle cable bracket that causes the cable to stick way up high in the engine bay, and it's definitely gonna hit the hood when I try to put one on this car later. I have no choice but to do something about that.
I'ma kick back when you fake like that. Back when you fake like that.
All right. It's an embarrassing day when the guy she told you not to worry about was a $13 angle grinder from Harbor Freight. Here's the finished product. Pretty happy with this. It's like the OEM bracket. I just modified it, and let's see if it works. Dude, that is OEM right there. I wish I got this a little bit cleaner, but dude, overall, that is so good. Dude, that was a really big deal because this was something that was kind of stressing me out. If I couldn't get that to work, then I was gonna have to get a new throttle body. That would be expensive, and then also it would mess up the positioning of the idle air control valve, which is underneath this throttle body. It's like a perfect bolt-on scenario right now. So basically, to summarize, that working out is so big. That's such a big win. And honestly, guys, it looks really, really good. Like, it looks like it's supposed to be like that. I love having a welder. I really do. God, it's insane to think like how inconvenient it used to be to deal with scenarios like this. And that was like, I wasn't even really cranking, and that was maybe like 2 hours of work. That was so awesome. I'm really happy with how they came out. That could have turned out looking really rough, but I think it actually looks pretty dang good. It's like almost factory spec looking. Either way, it'll work, and it looks much better. The next thing I'm gonna do is install a Spall slim fan on the radiator. This isn't necessary for a first start, but I already picked one up, and I might as well get it done while I'm waiting for the lower radiator hose to come in and engine management. Yes, I also have an ECU on order. All right, next thing on the agenda. Normally, the radiator fan is on that side of this car's engine bay. But because it is K-swap and because we're running the fan on this side, the connector is way over here. But the chassis side is way over here. So we have to extend that wire all the way up
to the fan. In the middle of extending the wires, the lower radiator hose delivered and the ECU. I couldn't stop myself from plugging in the ECU and just cranking the engine to see what would happen. So the rest of the cooling system is gonna have to wait a second. Epic moment alert. This car had an ECU in it when I got it, but it didn't have K-Pro. So I took that ECU, sent it to my friend Simon over at Nomus Industries, and he sent me back another one with K-Pro within just a couple of days. So guys, I already have an ECU solution for this car. Shout out Nomus Industries. If you guys have literally anything ECU related, he is your guy. ECU refurbishment, K-Pro, S300, chipped ECU questions, K-tuner, all kinds of like crazy things. This guy does literally everything with electronics and ECUs. Hit him up, no joke, hit him up. He sent me some sweet stickers. I like these, they look good. Dude, these actually look really sweet. Good job on the stickers, Simon. Air fresheners, of course. He sent me a brand new cable, and Nomus Industries K-Pro installed, baby. Look at that. Gonna go ahead and toss this thing in the car and see if we can get the first startup on the K24 EK Coupe. God, that would be so sick if I hear this thing roar tonight. Should we just try it on whatever base map is on that ECU and see what happens? Kind of tempted. Dude, it just ran. Bro, it just started. That counts. That counts. It's a first start. I was legitimately shook that it started up first try just like that. It kind of freaked me out because I didn't know like if the engine was ready to be running. Like did I miss anything? Did I make sure that I had enough oil in it? You know, so many different variables here. But now that it's running, you guys probably have two questions. Question number one is, if it has a 2.5 inch, you know, knock a catback on it, why is it so loud and why does it sound like a tractor? Also, what check engine lights does it have right off the bat? Because you know there's gonna be some. It's loud right now because I really wasn't satisfied with the muffler tip alignment when I finished the exhaust in the previous episode. So off camera, I took it off and I'm just remodifying it to make it fit better. As far as check engine lights go, we had a couple that I could just disable in Honda data, like VTEC related stuff, but we also had one major one that I actually have to address, and it's a crankshaft position sensor code. I was able to get my hands on a OEM Honda K20 crankshaft position sensor, and I figured the first thing to try is just replacing the sensor itself. You can make a K20 crankshaft position sensor work in a K24 with a K24 harness, but you just have to modify the wiring pinouts on the connector itself, and then it should run just fine. So going forward, we just have to fix the check engine light, which I'm gonna do first, finish the exhaust again, which I'm gonna do off camera, install the radiator fan, install the lower coolant hose, and put coolant into the radiator. Then we can fire it up again, get some revs, get it up to operating temperature, and see if the check engine light is gone. That way we can make sure that everything is working smoothly with this engine, but let's knock out these couple of things first, and then we can hear it fire up one more time with some revs. Some extra cooling power and extra clearance, of course. All right, yeah, this is gonna be way better clearance-wise. This is gonna be awesome. Very excited for the outcome of this. I can really mount this thing wherever I want, which is kind of cool. Go like right in the middle. I think I might just go right in the middle. Why not, dude? I got the space. All right, now this filler neck situation is purely temporary. I have the correct hose on order to make this actual filler port relocate into a much better position, but this is just so that I can get the car bled and driving this weekend.
couple of different issues there. We'll go over them shortly.
It fired up right away, as it should, which is awesome, but we do have one major problem. It's overheating. I think it's for two different reasons. One is that the radiator fan isn't kicking on for some reason, and two is that I may not have bled the coolant well enough. But you guys are gonna have to wait for the next episode where I take this car for its first rip around the block before you see exactly what caused the coolant temp overheating issue. If you're interested in purchasing this car once it's complete, feel free to send me a text message. This car will not be cheap since it is so nice. Please, serious inquiries only, and I will be hand delivering this car to anyone who wants it in the continental 48 states. Again, serious inquiries only, please, and thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe with the bell turned on so you don't miss episode 3 of this series. I'm Booster John. We deserve nothing, earn everything.